The Smurl haunting, decades of terror on Chase Street, a demon followed the Smurl family beyond their home, proving that some entities cannot be escaped by simply moving away from the house. Jack and Janet Smurl arrive at the duplex on Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania in 1973, with hope in their hearts and a vision of the future painted in ordinary dreams. They want a quiet neighborhood, good schools for their daughters, and a place where family dinners happen around a sturdy table. Jack's parents move into the other half of the duplex, making the arrangement feel even safer, even more grounded in the stability of generations living side by side. The house is modest but clean. The street is lined with trees. For more than a decade, life unfolds exactly as they imagined it would. Dawn, Carla, Shannon, and Heather grow up in that duplex, their laughter echoing through rooms that seem, for all those years, perfectly normal. Then 1985 arrives, and with it, something changes. The first signs are easy to dismiss. Strange smells drift through the kitchen with no identifiable source, not food, not cleaning products, nothing the family can name. Janet scrubs mysterious stains from the carpet, dark and oily, only to find them reappearing days later in the exact same spots. Appliances begin operating on their own. The television flickers to life in the middle of the night. The radio turns on at full volume while the family sleeps. Jack checks the wiring, assumes the house is aging poorly, and makes notes to call an electrician. But the electrician finds nothing wrong. The wiring is sound. The outlets are functional. There is no logical explanation. Then the violence begins. The family's German Shepherd, a loyal animal that has lived peacefully in the home for years, is suddenly hurled across the living room by an invisible force. The dog crashes into the wall with a sickening thud, bones cracking on impact. It whimpers and limps away, terrified, refusing to enter that room again. The family watches in horror, unable to comprehend what they have just witnessed. There was no person in the room. There was no physical explanation. Something unseen has just attacked their dog with deliberate, calculated force. Janet is the next target. She wakes one night to the sensation of hands gripping her ankles, cold and impossibly strong, dragging her from the bed. She screams and claws at the sheets, but the force is relentless. When Jack turns on the light, Janet is on the floor, gasping, and fresh scratch marks line her arms, long, deliberate, as if something with claws has marked her. She has no memory of scratching herself. The marks burn. Jack experiences something far worse. He wakes in the dead of night to a crushing weight pressing down on his chest, pinning him to the mattress. He cannot move. He cannot scream. Invisible hands violate him in the darkness, and he is powerless to stop it. The assault is deliberate, humiliating, and unmistakably malevolent. When it finally releases him, Jack lies in the dark, shaking, unable to speak about what has just happened. The shame is overwhelming, but eventually he tells Janet. She believes him. She has to. She has seen too much to doubt. The temperature in certain rooms of the duplex begins to plummet without warning. The family can be sitting in the living room, comfortable one moment, and then suddenly their breath becomes visible in the air. Frost forms on the windows even when it is warm outside. The cold is not natural. It does not respond to the thermostat. It simply appears, radiates outward, and then vanishes as inexplicably as it arrived. A rancid smell fills the house, the stench of decay mixed with sulfur, thick and choking. It clings to fabric and furniture. No amount of cleaning removes it. Visitors to the home comment on it immediately, wrinkling their noses and asking what has spoiled in the kitchen. But nothing has spoiled. The smell has no source. One of the daughters reports seeing a female entity standing at the foot of her bed. The figure is pale, dressed in old clothing and smiling, but the smile holds no warmth, no comfort. It is a smile that promises suffering. The girl is too terrified to scream. She simply lies frozen under her blankets, staring at the woman until the figure slowly fades into the wall. The black humanoid shadow becomes a regular presence. It appears in the living room, darker than the surrounding darkness, moving with deliberate purpose across the floor before passing directly through the walls. The family sees it separately and together. It does not hide. It does not flee when lights are turned on. It simply moves as if it owns the space, as if the family are the intruders. The activity escalates with terrifying frequency. Objects fly across rooms, furniture moves on its own. The attacks grow more violent, more targeted, as if the entity is learning the family's weaknesses and exploiting them with precision. The Smurls are trapped. They cannot afford to move. They cannot explain what is happening to outsiders without sounding insane. They are isolated, exhausted, and terrified in their own home. In 1986, the Smurl family reaches out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. When the Warrens arrive at the duplex on Chase Street, Lorraine feels the oppressive atmosphere before she even reaches the front door. She describes it later as walking into something physical, a heaviness that presses against the chest and makes breathing difficult. Ed Warren conducts his investigation with the methodical care that has defined his decades of work. He interviews each family member separately, documenting their experiences, cross-referencing their stories, searching for inconsistencies. He finds none. The accounts align with disturbing precision. Ed walks through the duplex room by room, his recorder running, his camera ready. He measures temperature fluctuations. He documents the stains. He notes the smell. Lorraine stands in the center of the living room and closes her eyes, opening herself to whatever presence lingers in the space. What she senses chills her. This is not a single spirit. This is not a residual haunting. This is something organized, something intelligent, and something deeply malevolent. Ed delivers his conclusions solemnly. The duplex contains 4 distinct entities. 3 are lower spirits, opportunistic, and drawn to the chaos. But the 4th is a demon. It is the intelligence directing events. It is powerful, deeply entrenched, and deliberately targeting the family. Ed classifies the case as infestation progressing toward oppression, with early signs of possession beginning to appear in some family members. If left unchecked, this entity will not simply torment the Smurls. It will attempt to claim them entirely. The family is desperate for relief, and they decide to leave the house temporarily. They plan a camping trip, reasoning that whatever torments them must be tied to the duplex. They drive hours away, deep into a peaceful forest, and set up their campsite beneath the stars. For a few hours, they feel safe. They breathe deeply, they laugh, they allow themselves to believe they have escaped. That night, the familiar smell of sulfur drifts through the tent. The oppressive presence returns, heavier than ever. Jack is attacked again, the same invisible assault he suffered at home, the same crushing weight, the same violation. He screams, and the family realizes with absolute horror that the entity is not bound to the house. It is bound to them. There is no geography that can provide safety. There is no escape. When the Smurls decide to share their story with the press, hoping public attention might bring help, the demon reacts with fury. The attacks double in intensity. Objects fly with greater force. The black mass appears in daylight. The smell becomes so overwhelming that neighbors begin to notice. The family is being punished for speaking out. The Warrens arrange for Reverend Robert McKenna, a traditionalist Catholic priest, to perform the rite of exorcism at the duplex. The first exorcism lasts hours. Reverend McKenna stands in the living room, his voice steady and commanding, invoking the power of God to cast out the unclean spirit. The family huddles together, praying, weeping, hoping. When the ritual concludes, the oppressive atmosphere lifts. The house feels lighter. The family sleeps peacefully for the first time in years, but the entity returns. A second, more intensive exorcism is performed. Reverend McKenna brings additional support, and the ritual is conducted with the full authority of the church. Witnesses describe temperature drops so severe that frost forms on the priest's breath. Strange lights flicker in the corners of the room. There is a palpable sense of an invisible battle being waged, forces clashing in a space beyond human perception. The ritual is exhausting, draining, and perilous. But gradually, over the following weeks, the attacks diminish. The oppressive presence weakens. The family begins to reclaim their home. They cannot remain, however. The trauma is too deep. The memories are too vivid. The Smurls eventually move away from Chase Street, leaving the duplex behind and rebuilding their lives elsewhere. The scars, both physical and psychological, follow them, but they are alive, they are together, and they are free. The Smurl haunting becomes one of the most extensively documented cases in the Warren archive. Jack and Janet Smurl share their account publicly, co-authoring the book The Haunted in 1988 with the Warrens and writer Robert Curran. The case is adapted into a television movie in 1991, bringing their story to a national audience and cementing the Smurl haunting as one of the most prolonged and violent cases of demonic assault ever documented on American soil. The duplex on Chase Street is investigated by subsequent researchers, some of whom report lingering unusual activity. Ed and Lorraine Warren reference the Smurl case frequently in their lectures, using it as an example of how demonic entities operate, not spontaneously, but with patience, strategy, and a willingness to endure multiple exorcisms while searching for the moment to reassert dominance. The Smurl family survives, but their story remains a chilling reminder that some battles are fought not with weapons or words, but with faith, endurance, and the refusal to surrender one's soul to the darkness. If you found this case compelling, subscribe to Vanishing Roads for more documented paranormal investigations from around the world. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.